Breaking news! Apex Toys has announced a new scale figure of Kamisato Ayaka in 1/7 scale from Genshin Impact, and this figure will be going on pre-order presumably sometime within this week. What if I told you guys that this figure of Ayaka isn't new at all? In fact, the very same figure of Ayaka is available for purchase and in stock in this Genshin global website over here for $130. Oh, that should be a bootleg, right? A nasty bootleg that was being overpriced, but this figure right here isn't a bootleg at all. Hi and welcome back to the channel. I'm Steven, and today I have a really challenging topic to discuss with you guys that has to do with anime figures. Yes, we are talking about the classic genuine versus bootleg topic for today, but this one here is quite different. And yeah, we have reached a point where it is virtually impossible for 99% of the population to differentiate between a genuine and a bootleg figure, because number one, the quality of a figure has nothing to do with whether a figure is genuine or bootleg or not, because, well, there are bad quality genuine figures out there for Japan, and there are also high quality bootlegs out there, just like the one I covered more than a year ago, I think 2 years ago. You can find the link right up here. Yeah, that one is actually a bootleg figure, a really high quality one with a face sculpt which is almost impossible to differentiate from the genuine one, unless you pay attention to the paint work, of course. However, with today's topic, I am not talking about the quality of the figure at all. We are going into this territory where whether a figure is considered a bootleg or not is determined by whether, number one, it is a knockoff, a cheap knockoff of an existing licensed figure which already exists in the market. And number two, unlicensed figures, they do not count as bootlegs. They are not bootlegs. They are a separate category. For example, all of the third-party resin figures I've covered in my weekly figure news, right? These third-party, very expensive resin figures, 1x4, 1x6 scale, can go up to thousands of dollars sometimes. These are the kind of figures where you can imagine fan art. For example, you are an artist, you create your own fan art of your favorite anime characters, and then you proceed to sell your artwork in an anime convention. You open your own booth, right? These unlicensed resin figures, they are very similar. They are a product of fan art, except the artist behind these figures, instead of selling you a 2D artwork or a 3D model, they actually convert it to an actual figure, a 3D object, and sell it to you as a figure. Those are what unlicensed figures are, right? So back to the topic of Apex Toys Kamisato Ayaka figure, which is about to go on pre-order this week, very soon. And yet, she is already in stock in this Genshin global website over here. What is going on over here? Am I implying over here that this Ayaka figure in Genshin global website is a bootleg? A very overpriced one at $130? Naturally, one would assume that to be the case, given that the one we see in this website, she has a plain plastic disc base over there. Meanwhile, the one Apex revealed, yeah, you're getting a more detailed diorama base of some kind. So the answer to this question is that no, this Ayaka figure you are seeing in this website is not a bootleg, but yes, it is indeed overpriced. Now, when you read the product description over there, it is mentioned this is a fan-made Genshin Impact merchandise. What that means is that this is an unlicensed third-party PVC figure. What this Ayaka figure listing in this Genshin global website tells us is that this figure is not a new figure. This one has existed for a very long time, maybe a few months earlier, maybe last year, maybe older than that, just that we never knew this figure existed because, well, every mainstream Japanese website, they don't sell unlicensed stuff. Well, they are just being careful, you know, they don't want to get into legal trouble with their own industry, anime industry in Japan, so they play it safe. I was only being made aware of this figure via a Reddit post. Yeah, it was a separate subreddit, not the one by myfigurecollection.net, where they also post bootleg stuff. There was this topic of unlicensed PVC figure being brought up as a topic, and it made me realize something that has never crossed my mind, which is, if we can make unlicensed resin figures, why not PVC too, right? And this was the moment I realized that not every dirt cheap PVC figure I see in a Chinese website is necessarily a bootleg. That was an enlightenment, that moment over there where I realized that things are way worse than I thought when it comes to differentiating genuine and bootleg figures, because this licensing part over here is the only single factor that determines whether a figure is a bootleg or not. My own theory over here, my hypothesis, is that all Apex Toys had to do was to pay the sculptor of this very unlicensed figure of Ayaka over here, which has been circulating around for months at least. All they had to do is to pay the sculptor a licensing fee, as well as pay MiHoYo for the rights to the Genshin brand. These are the only two things they need to do to convert an unlicensed figure into a licensed one, which is to say, to convert an unlicensed figure into a genuine figure. And this is exactly why it is almost impossible to tell apart which is which nowadays, because what determines a figure is genuine or not is something we consumers, we figure collectors, can't see. The licensing process, the signature, the contract, and everything else that happens behind closed doors. So when you go to Taobao, for example, Chinese e-commerce website, their very own version of Amazon in some way, where many sellers sell their own products, right? The largest shopping site in China. You will come across many so-called unlicensed PVC figures, which are being sold by figure stores that sell bootlegs. So there are two problems over here, and the first one being these unlicensed PVC figures, they are being grouped together as the same as bootlegs, which are cheap knockoffs of existing genuine figures. The second problem is that if you were to decide to buy an unlicensed PVC figure, how do you know this particular unlicensed PVC figure is actually one, like it is actually a product of a fan art? So do you see the problem over here, where there is a 50-50 chance where this very unlicensed PVC figure, which is fairly low cost in general, it might be a bootleg at the same time. A bootleg of an existing unlicensed third-party resin figure, which cost 5 times, 7 times as much. If you can counterfeit a genuine figure from Japan, what stops you from counterfeiting an unlicensed resin figure? Make a cheaper version of it. This is exactly what I meant when I said that it is nearly impossible to differentiate the genuine from the bootleg ones nowadays, because things can go many ways. As long as you don't know the history behind the very figure you're looking at being sold on the internet, you don't know what goes on behind the scenes, then you can't be sure whether that thing is just an unlicensed one or just a bootleg, unless you do a lot of research, of course. And speaking of this Kamisato Ayaka figure on Genshin Global, $130 US, stay away from it, even though it is a very well-made figure, because this thing is nowhere near $130 US. On Taobao, as you can see, she is more like 150 Chinese yuan. So if you do the math, that is more like $25 US instead of 130. You guys are being ripped off if you buy this Ayaka figure from this website for 130 bucks. Yeah. The second news I have for you guys is that a copy of this figure of Ayaka, this unlicensed one, is on the way. It is arriving soon this week at my doorsteps, and I will review it hopefully next week, so we get to see the figure, how good it is, or maybe how bad it is, right? However, this thing is $25 to $30. Do not pay $130 for it. Find a friend who can read Chinese and get them to help you purchase one from Taobao or something like that. I am also including the link of the one I purchased from the Taobao link in the description below, so you can check it out on your own. Also, another warning for you guys is that I just told you guys that it is possible to counterfeit an unlicensed resin or PVC figure. So even if you go to Taobao on your own and you see countless listings of the very same Ayaka figure at various different price points, as low as 15 US dollars all the way up to 30 or 40 US dollars equivalent, there is a possibility of bootlegs being mixed in there, so you will want to be very careful. Maybe perhaps wait until after I review it next week before deciding whether to purchase it. And if the one I purchased is actually legit, yeah, I'll share the link once again. Okay, so I am not really an expert with Genshin figures. I'm more familiar with FGO, and let me give you guys a couple of more examples over here with unlicensed third-party PVC figures. The first one over here, we have Abigail Williams right here, 142 Chinese yuan only. This one is definitely not a genuine figure from Japan. These are the pictures from the users. As you can see, they are pretty legit. Like the face of this Abigail figure is really well done. Another example would be this Shuten Doji over here. This one, I think I'm quite certain this is a bootleg, because if my memory serves me right, there is a resin figure of this Shuten Doji which cost a lot more. And now we have a cheaper version of this very resin figure, but in the form of a PVC figure. But then again, when you look at the user photos, she looks pretty well made. Yeah. And then the third one over here, this is another Shuten Doji figure, a different one. Once again, I have no idea this is a knockoff of an existing resin figure or not. Think of it as a prize figure of Shuten Doji. There are no prize figures of her out there. My final question for you guys today is very simple. What do you think about this topic today? Where it is impossible to know whether a figure is just being an unlicensed one or actually a bootleg, because we don't know what happens behind closed doors. And some of us do care about this because we want to support the anime and game industry by buying licensed, genuine stuff. That is how you keep the industry afloat. But at the same time, not every character we like gets a genuine figure, which is understandably why we go for third-party unlicensed stuff. What do you think about this Kamisato Ayaka figure? Is it a surprise to you that this figure already exists even before Apex Toys announced it? Let me know down in the comments below. I would love to hear your opinions on this one. If you enjoyed this video today, please do give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to this channel for more figure news and figure reviews in the future. Until then, thank you very much for watching all the way to the end. I'm hoping you guys having a good day today, and see you soon. Goodbye.